Today, let's talk about grey paint. Grey? You might say, well, grey, it's just grey, right? And it is, it can be. But what if you want to mix the perfect grey for the painting you're doing? Let's take a look. So we begin with the easiest way to mix grey paint in acrylic or oil paint, and that is to take some white paint, mix it with black, and you get grey. So just plain straight white paint, plain black paint, mix them together and you get varying shades of grey depending on how much black you add to the white, or how little black you add to the white will determine how light or dark the grey is. However, that is not the best way to mix grey paint. That will certainly give you a grey, as you can see, but it will be a very flat grey. There's not much depth to it. It'll not enrich your paint in the same way as using colours to mix grey will. So we're going to move on to other greys. So now we're going to mix the colours that are opposite each other in the colour wheel together. We're going to mix primary colour yellow with its opposite secondary colour purple, primary colour blue with its opposite secondary colour orange, and we're going to mix primary colour red with its opposite colour of green. Okay, and this is what happens. We're basically, instead of mixing white and black, we're replacing the black with the primary and secondary colours and adding a little bit of white into it to get our shade or our lightness or darkness of the colour of grey that we want. But we've taken out the black. Black is very, very flat. You don't really want to use black. So we're mixing our primary colour yellow with its opposite in the colour wheel purple, adding just a touch of white, and we get this beautiful, beautiful grey, purpley grey. If you compare that grey with our standard grey of mixing black with white, you can see that that particular grey, although it's fine, it's flat. There's no warmth to it at all. It's just very, very flat, and that will make a difference in your paintings. So if you can imagine, if you have a painting where you have a lot of purples or yellows in it and you're wanting to mix a grey, rather than going for just the standard black and white, mix your purple and your yellow together and you'll get a grey that will sit with the rest of your painting really, really, really well, and it'll bring your whole painting together and make it look so put together and so professional and not flat at all. There'll be a lot more depth to your painting, a lot more warmth to your painting if you use the colours and know how to mix the colours that you're using to their best advantage. So in this case, if you've got a lot of purples and that in your painting, or a lot of yellows, and you're wanting to mix a grey, mix your yellow and your purple together and you'll get grey. Actually, what you'll get is very, very dark, but you add just a touch of white and it'll bring in this beautiful, beautiful grey with just a hint of the purple in it. Again, play around with how much purple and how much yellow together, and again then you'll start to get even more variations of grey, moving towards more yellow or more purple depending on the amount of each colour. That's by no means the end of it. You can alternate the quantities of each to get all different kinds of tones, variations, values. The possibilities are absolutely endless. And as I say, just a tad of white to increase your lightness and your darkness of each colour that you get. That's just the yellow and the purple. Then if we move on to the blue primary colour, mix it with its opposite colour in the colour wheel orange. Again, just add a touch of white and you get like a blue-green grey. It's absolutely beautiful. Compare that with your standard grey, you can see how flat this is in comparison to these colours. This is, you're getting a cool grey with this, but there's actually more blue in that one. But if you add more orange to it, you're going to get a warmer grey. So again, play around with the amounts of the secondary colour and the primary colour that you're using, and you'll get a vast range of colours and hues of grey from it. And according to how much white you use, how light or how dark it is. With watercolour, you're going to play around, instead of the white, you're going to play around with the amount of water you add rather than white. But this is good for acrylic and oil. Then with your primary colour red and green, again, just a wee tad of white, you get like this greenish grey. Add a bit more red to it, it's going to swing toward the red grey tones. Just the possibilities are endless. You're going to get all kinds of greys according to the amount of primary colour and the amount of secondary colour you use, with just a touch of white. You just play around with it in your palette. To give you an example, that everything is not always neat and tidy, this is the palette that I've been using for this demonstration. So you can see, you just play around and play around and play around until you get the tone that you want. And this is what I've come up with. 3 different, completely different greys that swing towards colours. But that, as you can see, is flat. There's no... Well, in my opinion, there's no warmth to it at all. It's very, very flat, very, very bland. Whereas if you can imagine incorporating these greys into an overall painting, the whole painting is just going to come to life in a way that it can't with this grey and this black. I never use, there's a bit of, artists will disagree, but I never use black paint in a painting. It's just dead colour, it's just flat. You can have mix a dark colour, and that's all you need in your painting, something that's very, 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 very dark, and with different ways of mixing that as well, and you use that instead of black paint. And again, it's going to make that your painting isn't going to be flat. It certainly is the easiest way to mix grey. Go ahead if that's what you want. Black and white make grey, standard basics, but you're going to get much more depth, much more warmth, much more lifelike paintings if you can learn to just play around with mixing your primaries with their opposite colours in the colour wheel. The best way to learn, really, yes, watch a demonstration like this one or go to a class, but the best way to do it is to just play around with the paint yourself. Get the paints out, get your primary colours out, mix your secondaries, and just play around with the different amounts you want. Do it before you're actually doing a painting, just play around mixing colours, and that's the best way to learn. Okay, so thanks for watching. I hope that was of use to you, and we'll see you again next week. Bye for now. Bye.